ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop, come on, bring it higher.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it is that time of the week, UFC Fight Night Fortune. Good friend and colleague, Mr. Lou Finocchiaro, UFC Saudi Arabia, especially for Lou. Octagon and omelets. That's what I'm going to call it. How's that, Lou? That get you time to get up, get some espresso, get some coffee in there. If I did the math correctly, like 7 a.m. West Coast time for the fights. Headliner, will IZZY catch fire? We soon will find out. We'll get a loose breakdown of the main event there. But first and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It is WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play, download the app. It is free. AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Terry Smith, the best in the business. Head on over to AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Use the promo code SHRIMP. That's right, shrimp. Get a 2-pound bag of the 1620, the big ones, for the Super Bowl. Maybe for some surf and turf, some baked shrimp, or however you want to have them. Go see Terry. He'll take good care of you. And, of course, Viva Tequila Seltzer. 6 flavors in all. 2 new flavors, lemon, and the East Coast is cuckoo for coconut. So without further ado, let's bring him in, Mr. Lou Finocchiaro.
Good afternoon, Jeff. Tickled to be here. How's everything?
Things are good. A little cold back here in Cape Cod, so you could send some heat from sunny Arizona. I bet you it's a little warmer than 23 degrees. How's that sound?
It is. I don't want to talk about weather because it's kind of chilly here, not compared to you guys, but we get really thin here, and so I don't want to disclose what a weenie I am. I can just say it like this: no way I could survive in Cape Cod this time of year. No way.
Well, the olive branch is always open next time you'd like to come here, but I would say come, in the summer when it's a lot warmer, some nice Cape League baseball, some lobster rolls, some beautiful beaches. We have it here for you in the summer whenever you want to come.
That would be my kind of thing, and you better watch out what you say because I'll probably hold you to it, brother.
Before we get to the card, we had a week off, obviously. I'm going to go back to 2 weeks ago because I said that guy that I was shocked Yuri was an underdog. I asked you about that. I thought it was a great swap. Both fighters coming off losses to Pereira. What did you see in that fight after the dust had settled there, Lou?
I saw a guy in Yuri that had struggled with defense prior to the fight, did slightly better in this fight as far as holding his hands up. You could see after the fight in the interview, he got a little cross because he thought he'd done better than he had. You don't just change your style overnight, but he made adjustments. And if anything, what it shows you is that Hill isn't legit top 7 in the light heavyweights. He's a talker. He had a good fight, a couple good fights, getting in and getting to Pereira. He got lit by Pereira. Now he got lit by Yuri. He needs to go and really work on a little more defensive aptitude and maybe some wrestling as well. He's as one-dimensional as Yuri is. I think there's still a gap between Yuri and Pereira, and it revolves around strike evasion and defense. That's as much a part of fighting as the offense is, just like in football. Offense, defense, special teams, you got to be able to defend. And some defense is better than no defense, but great defense is hard to beat.
Well, perfect segue. Special teams, offense, defense, week off before the Super Bowl. Kansas City Chiefs facing off against the Philadelphia Eagles, a rematch of 2 years ago. This time, Kansas City 1.5-point favorites, depending upon when you're shopping. I've seen some twos out there. I've seen some over-unders of 50s, 49s, 49.5. Depends, obviously, where you're shopping. Props galore everywhere. This is just the appetizer because you and I will be back here this same time next week for the UFC. Initial thoughts of this year's Super Bowl in New Orleans?
Initial thoughts are that there's one team that through their play in a traditional run first, play good defense style, I think really has shown that they have the pedigree to be there in Philly. And there's the team in Kansas City that you can't doubt because every time Reed and Mahomes get to a big game, they find a way to win. But I don't know that that team and their body of work fits as well in a football handicap against the other team. And so I lean to Philadelphia in this game, which is an initial thought.
Is there, I come Super Bowl, I call it amateur night out, meaning everyone comes crawling out of the woodwork. I've been at parties 40, 50, 60 deep where someone pulls you aside and says, hey, I want to throw 500 on this game. And I'm like, what do you mean? Oh, it's the Super Bowl. You know, it's like March Madness. They come crawling out of the woodwork. There isn't a, Gatorade, coin tosses. There's action everywhere. When it comes to the Super Bowl, and I know how you are because I have learned since we've started doing work with you, you're sharp. You fine tune this, and now it's the big game where Vegas is as sharp as it can be. Are you a prop guy? Anything stick out to you every year for the Super Bowl?
Yes, and that is that in Gamblu's world and in my NFL work with my clients, our season ended last week. I say this, and I'm trying to be funny, but I'm as serious as a heart attack. Ask your mom who she likes. She's going to be righter than me. The numbers are usually right on. Nobody knows. Oh, the tight ends. Everybody's all over Goddard right now. And so basically I just try and have fun with it. I play square bets for 45 years in a row. For 45 years in a row, I've bet tails. And I used to pay 110 to do it. What a disadvantage. Now, at least, I can get it at plus 100. I bet the final score to be odd. So I'm having fun with it because I know that if I haven't made my money in the NFL by now, I'm not going to do it on Super Bowl. And just because it's the last game, I'm not going to go crazy with my bets. If I'm $100 better, why would I bet 500, 600, 700 just because it's the last game and there's all those props? That's just what they want you to do, the bookmakers. I really try and be premeditated on my positioning. I think that by the time the game kicks off, Philly's going to still be a plus on the money line. I think that that's the side I'm probably going to be choosing to wager on. But my wagers will be fractions of what they were in the regular season. I'll have the tails. I'll have the odd. I'll have some Philly. I'll have Philly -4.5 plus 200. I'll have Philly -6.5 plus 260. Those are available at DraftKings right now. That's how I'm going to play this with peanuts and have some fun. Will I play some squares? You bet. This is fun for me. I'm so happy right now that NFL is over. I've had a great year. It's been just a hugely successful campaign for my clients, and now I'm all about the UFC. So it's really recreational for me. And what I'll probably do, because I don't want to work so hard, is to taking over on a lot of the props today and tomorrow, because those are just coming out at the Westgate and everywhere right now as we speak. So rather than be all over that and try and get the overs now and then wait until they go up 10, 12 yards per person and then bet the under at the end of the cycle, I'll just wait. And guys like Goddard, who were 47.5 yards, they'll be 60 yards as a total by the time they kick off, and I'll just go under. Under's the way to go if you're going to bet late and bet props, because everybody going to bet yes on all these props. I'm just going to find the ones that have moved the most and fade the public, and I'll bet I do pretty well.
I love it, as our good friend Mr. Shady says, preach it, Lou, preach it, Lou. We got a fight this week in Saudi Arabia.
Fight.
Yes, we do. I was listening to your podcast, the
Thank you.
Tea podcast on Monday. Favorites 15, 10, and 1 to start the year. That is music to our ears when they were well over 70% for the full year of 2024, Lou.
Yeah, and so, hopefully can we count on that for the next few months? Boy, wouldn't it be nice? We don't know. We're going to have to see. But the good news is that we're not fighting, 9 of 11 fights that are favorites.
4 fights that we're going to break down here. Your first fight, Ziam versus Davis. Right now, Ziam plus 120, Davis minus 142. Over under 2.5 minus 245, Lou.
Jeff, we're going to hit you with one of the most amazing fights right out of the gate in this Ziam and Davis. Ziam's won his last 4. He's been in the UFC for probably 5 years. He started at 21 or 2. He's now 27. He's grown into himself. He's long and tall, pretty good, real good striker. Struggles really with being put on his back. But fortunately, he's kind of had a manicured approach, and he hasn't had to face many dual threat, well-rounded athletes. The last fight he took was a fantastic flying knee knockout over Matt Frevola. But Matt Frevola is a fan favorite, and he brings the fight. And so he walked right into that to some degree. This opponent that Ziam from France has now is a guy named Mike Davis that people kind of forget about and don't know about because he's had to overcome some injuries. He's just overcoming a torn bicep. But this guy is highly intelligent. Fights because he's just so doggone good at it. He's very confident. He's very well-rounded. And he opened minus 125. Then he ballooned up to maybe minus 180 or so before there's been some buyback on Ziam. And so this thing's gone back and forth a little. I really like the fight for Mike Davis. I think that Ziam is being propped up in price and in popularity right now for what he did against Frevola. And Mike Davis and Matt Frevola are nowhere near the same mixed martial artists. Mike Davis is going to show the Saudis and anyone watching what kind of fighter he is Saturday. And I think he is a bargain at minus 142, to be quite honest.
Our next fight, Nurmagomedov versus Oliveira.
Here's a great fight of each country, obviously Nurmagomedov, Brazil, Russian, and Oliveira, a BJJ artist. And the rivalry between the two, Sambo and vice grip wrestling for the Dagestanis or the Russians, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai striking for the Brazilians. Each side thinks their form of mixed martial arts is superior, and there's a great rivalry there. This Nurmagomedov is tall and lanky, and he's fought some pretty good fighters to get to this point, but he's going to rely on having to close distance, get his arms around the Brazilian, and try and take him against the fence, then to the floor. The Brazilian, meanwhile, looks like he was chiseled out of marble. He's young, he's fast, he's explosive, he has flamboyant striking, and he's going to want to play and strike at distance like a cobra and catch this plodding Russian moving in for a kill. And therefore, we're going to get a great stylistic matchup. If this fight's against the fence and on the floor, Nurmagomedov's going to have advantage. And if it's out in the open, Oliveira is going to be cutting him to ribbons with his kicks and strikes. So which way is it going to be? Should be a really interesting fight. I don't know that I really have a pick right now, but I do lean to the over maybe a little bit. I don't know if I can conceptualize one man finishing the other here. And so perhaps this goes over and goes to decision.
Yeah, currently Nurmagomedov minus 162, Oliveira plus 136, and you're over 2.5. Currently, give or take a few cents, minus 135.
Nurmagomedov opens 278. So we've seen some substantial buy-in on Oliveira.
Okay. Let's move to the third fight here.
Pardon me.
You're getting me good here. Is it Magomedov versus Page, correct?
Magomedov versus Page. We'll call him CHARA because that's his first name. And he is unusual for a Dagestani fighter in that he can't even spell wrestling. And that usually Dagestanis come with such a solid foundation in wrestling. You just take an advantage that a Dagestani has it. He doesn't. But his striking is very complete, very power-based. He's also in a past fight or sparring lost one of his eyes. And so he's impaired to a degree in that he only has one functioning eye. That's why we haven't seen him fight in the US. He fights primarily where he can in Saudi and Russia, etc. He fights a guy in Page that's 37 years old, but he doesn't look 37 years old because the guy is smooth, long, tall, unbelievably agile, adroit, and skilled as a mixed martial artist. Powerful? No, maybe not, but he has such control over space, and his athleticism allows to kick and poke at people from angles. Page fights at 170. This fight's at 185. Page asked for the fight. It's a one-off. He's going to fight at 170 afterwards, but he likes this stylistic matchup for himself, and he wants the exposure going to Saudi, competing with this Magomedov, hopefully beating him and walking away. Now, total in this fight, 2.5 over minus 230. Okay, so they're kind of telling you that this can be a competitive decision-like fight, and Magomedov's fighting in his own backyard, right? I mean, he's the Dagestani, he's the Muslim, and this is going to be attended by a house full of Muslim fans. So they're going to all be on Magomedov. Can Page win the decision? I think his speed and his ability, the fact that he doesn't have to fight any weight cut, show up at 185, all favor him to an extent. And he's a plus 160. I think that's too much for me to overlook. I like Page here, and further, I'll say Page via decision. I believe that 2.5 over minus 230 is accurate, Jeff. And so with that in mind, I'm going to take Page to win the decision because I think he's that much faster and he's got a 7-inch reach advantage. I think he can paint the fence of Magomedov's going to be a little slower and more plodding. Page via decision plus 275.
You mentioned something during the breakdown, Magomedov and blind in one eye in the U.S. So you're saying to me that the U.S. will not allow him to fight because of that
I'm
in the
saying that
U.S.?
he hasn't fought in the U.S., and I believe it's because of the eye. I don't have any official hold or standing or read, but the fact is he hasn't been able to fight in the U.S.
Okay.
How's that? Is that political enough for you?
That is as politically correct as I ever could have said it. So I appreciate that. The main event, and I loved your talk about this on your podcast on Monday. IZZY Adesanya versus Amemov. Is that correct?
Imavov, yes.
Imamov. We put this together Tuesday or Wednesday, so some of these lines might have moved a little, but Adesanya minus 162, the underdog at plus 136, over 4.5 rounds, minus 200. My headliner was, will Izzy catch fire? I was higher 180-ish, some money coming in on the other side. Like I said for Yuri, I think the same here for Izzy. We're seeing a slow like this. It's kind of a big fight for him, correct?
It's a huge fight for him because really, I mean, and the handicap here is which Izzy are you counting on? If you believe that the Izzy that lost the last two fights is on a slide, then it's easier to grasp Imavov's path to victory because he's won fights. He's beaten ranked fighters. He's looked good. His criticism that he runs out of gas, I think to an extent's been addressed a little bit in his most recent fights. But this is a 5-round fight. Adesanya, meanwhile, which one we getting? The one that's going to collapse if it going gets tough? Many believe yes. He's 35 now. Others believe a focused Adesanya doesn't want to come out and lose 3, 4, 5 fights in a row. He'll tarnish his middleweight standing and reputation as being one of the best ever. So it's how you see Adesanya, how you want to approach this fight. I believe he's focused and ready to show up. I believe the over 4.5 rounds, minus 200, an indication of that. And I think it's going to be hard for Imavov to catch up to and get his hands on Adesanya, which is his path to victory, is to grapple.
Next week, I did not do my homework assignment. I apologize here. Shame on me. I'll make sure next week I am have this. Do you know where we're heading next week?
Yes, we're heading to Sydney, Australia, and we're gonna, which is interesting because Adesanya is a New Zealander, so you'd think that it would be natural for him to fight in Sydney. This is going to be Duplessis versus Strickland, same weight class as Izzy, the champion Duplessis, in a rematch against Strickland, who he won the title from. And there's going to be a handful of Aussie fighters on that card. I've peeked into it a little bit, Jeff, and I do believe there's some underdogs on that card we'll be talking about next week at this time.
Well, Australia, Foster's oil cans. I remember those back in the day. And a little Croc Dundee. How's that, Lou?
Not too bad. I'm a Cooper's Ale man myself. That's an indigenous Australian line of beers, the Cooper's products. Awful good. It doesn't matter what Australian beer it is. I'm up for it.
Well, we go from tennis and the Australian Open, which is now complete, to the UFC in Australia next Thursday. Lou, the scroller's been going the whole time. Everyone knows on Twitter where to find you, @GamLou, and your Sneak Teep podcast on Mondays, and of course your podcast on Friday. But I always turn it over to you here to talk about where they can find all your work, your website, and of course your charity.
Yeah, the website is gamblou.com. Single point of contact is me, and you can reach me there. You can find out all about me there. We contribute to a mission, the oldest mission in the United States. It's located just south of Tucson, Arizona, here a few hours away from us. The GamBlue webpage forwards 16% of gross income to the mission. They're doing great work. I'm happy that you allow me to represent that and mention it. San Xavier Mission. You don't have to go through Gamblu. You can contribute on your own. And thank you so much for letting me mention that, Jeff.
Well, I want to give everyone a shout out to Mr. Shady himself for always checking in here on Thursday, and everyone else here on social media, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, you name it, we're covering it. So everyone, 5:00, Ron Marmolewski will be back. We'll talk some college football and some NFL. Till then, want to give Lou again a shout out at GamLou. Go follow him there. Catch all his work there. Everyone, behave yourselves, and we'll see you soon.